When her name finally lights up your phone after days, weeks, maybe even months of silence, something hits you before you can even think. Your chest tightens, your pulse jumps, your mind goes quiet for a second, and right there in that instant, you are not the man you became during the silence, you are the man she once walked away from. Most guys never notice this shift. They think the dangerous part was when she left, or the days of not hearing anything, but no, the most dangerous moment is when she comes back, because how you respond does not just decide where the conversation goes, it decides who you are. And here is the truth nobody tells you: when she reaches out after silence, she is not handing you a second chance, she is handing you a test of your growth, a test of your stability, a test of whether you actually built emotional strength while she was gone, or whether you were just waiting. This is not about having the perfect line. It is not about sounding cool or acting like you do not care. It is about what your energy reveals. A man who reacts instantly shows her he has not changed. His body is still controlled by her attention. His peace is still borrowed, not owned. But a man who pauses, a man who takes one breath, a man who responds from clarity instead of craving, that man resets the entire dynamic without saying anything clever, because the pause is proof. The pause says, I am not controlled by this moment, I am centered, I am steady, I am leading myself. Welcome to Stoicism Breath. In this video, I am going to walk you through a simple blueprint for how a grounded man responds when she reappears, how he protects his peace, how he holds his frame, and how he quietly shows her that the silence did not break him, it built him. So if you are ready to stop reacting and start leading, stay with me, because what you learn today can change every future interaction you ever have with someone who pulls away and then returns. Now let us get honest. When a woman breaks her silence, most men think the moment is about her, what she wants, what she is thinking, what she is planning. But the moment is not really about her, it is about you, because it exposes the deepest parts of your emotional wiring, the parts you usually hide even from yourself. Before your mind can analyze her message, before you can interpret her tone, before you can read between the lines, your body reacts. And this is not poetry. It is physiology. Your nervous system fires, your adrenaline spikes, your dopamine rises, you feel a rush of relief you did not ask for but cannot stop. And notice how fast that happens. It happens before logic, before self-respect, before clarity. That split second reveals more about your inner world than anything she could ever type, because most men mistake that rush for excitement or hope or love, but underneath it is often something heavier: emotional dependence, a need for validation that has been waiting quietly for one small signal. That is why you feel that instant pull toward your phone. That is why your brain starts replaying old memories, like movie scenes you swore you were done watching. That is why your instinct is to answer immediately, as if your reply will decide whether she disappears again. But let me ask you a real question. If a casual acquaintance texted you the exact same words, would your chest tighten? Would your pulse spike? Would you feel that urgency to respond right now? If the answer is no, then the reaction is not about the message. It is about attachment. It is about the unfinished emotional loop, the silence left behind. And here is where most people lose themselves. They let biology drive the wheel. They let the nervous system decide the future. They think responding fast means strength or confidence, but often it is the opposite. It is your body trying to soothe uncertainty by chasing control. This is why the pause matters. And we are not talking about playing games. We are talking about a health habit, a mental health habit, a nervous system habit. Because a man who cannot pause in a moment like this is a man whose stress response is in charge. Try this the next time it happens. She texts hey, or she sends a simple message that does not explain anything. Instead of grabbing your phone right away, put it face down, take one slow breath, feel your shoulders drop, let your heart rate settle, give your brain time to come back online. Even 60 seconds can change everything because the pause creates space between the trigger and your choice. And that space is where self-control lives, that is where your peace lives, that is where your standards live. So before you type anything, ask yourself, am I about to reply because I am clear or because I am craving? Am I grounded or am I hungry for relief? Because your answer will shape your entire future with her. And if you learn to master this first moment, you will not just handle her return better, you will handle every stressful emotional moment better. You will become the kind of man who is not ruled by notifications, not ruled by uncertainty, not ruled by old patterns. Because the silence was not empty, it was training. And when she comes back, the question is simple: will you answer as the man she left or as the man the silence built? She is not reacting to you, she is reacting to the uncertainty she left behind, the unfinished story, the open loop, the emotional cliffhanger. Silence creates psychological tension, and when she finally breaks it, that tension does not release in your mind first, it releases in your body. It feels like relief, it feels like hope, but what it really is a loss of grounding. Think about it like this: your nervous system has been holding its breath for days, maybe weeks. Every time you checked your phone and saw nothing, your body stored a little more tension, not because you are weak, but because uncertainty is stressful to the human brain. Researchers have shown that uncertainty can activate the same stress pathways as physical threat. Your body treats not knowing like danger. So when her message finally appears, your system says, finally we can relax, and that relief can feel addictive. But here is the trap countless men fall into: they confuse emotional reaction with emotional truth. A reaction is instant, truth is steady. A reaction is impulsive, truth is deliberate. A reaction pulls you toward her, truth pulls you back into yourself. So the moment her message shows up is not a romantic opportunity, it is a test of whether you are still anchored in your own life or whether you drift. The second she taps your screen, let me ask you something: if one notification can hijack your mood, your focus, your heart rate, and your decisions, who is really in control, you or the screen? That is why your first instinct is always the biggest danger, not because instinct is evil, but because it is unfiltered. Instinct reveals your emotional center, and if that center is shaky, your response will come from fear instead of strength. And here is the truth: women do not need long paragraphs, voice notes, or confessions to know where you stand. They can feel it through timing alone. Timing is a language. Instant replies scream history, not growth. Instant reactions scream attachment, not self-possession. The second her message appears, something inside you ignites before you even realize it. Your pulse jumps, your mind accelerates, your chest tightens with a rush that feels like excitement. But underneath, it is something far more dangerous: reactivity. Reactivity is the moment your emotions take the wheel and your standards sit in the back seat. And this is where the strongest men separate themselves from everyone else, not by replying cleverly, not by acting cold, but by pausing. Let us be clear: the pause is not silence, the pause is not a game, the pause is self-control in its purest, most masculine form. It is the moment you stop being dragged by your nervous system, and you start leading yourself. Most men think the pause is a tactic, something you do to look mysterious or raise your value, but the truth is simpler and deeper. The pause is the moment your nervous system stops leading you, and you start leading you, because your first impulse is almost never strength. Your first impulse is emotion, fear, craving, hope, relief, confusion. That is why replying instantly always feels good in the moment, but often reveals weakness. Instant responses come from the same place. Most emotional mistakes come from the need to soothe yourself. You want to end the uncertainty, you want to feel safe again, you want the story to continue, so your mind can stop spinning. A man who pauses does something radically different. He breaks the loop, he interrupts the instinct to chase certainty, he stops the emotional current long enough to return to center. And here is what happens when you pause even for 60 seconds. Your breath slows, your thoughts settle, the noise inside your chest quiets just enough for your mind to come back online. You remember, you are not here to react, you are here to choose. Try this the next time it happens. Put your phone down and take one slow breath in through the nose for 4 seconds, hold for 2 seconds, then exhale for 6 seconds. That longer exhale tells your body you are safe, and it helps your nervous system come back into balance. In other words, you are not just managing a text, you are training your biology. And here is what women feel even when they do not consciously realize that your timing reflects your grounding. She can sense instantly whether your reply comes from emotional hunger, or from composure, from fear, or from presence, from the boy inside you, or from the man you are becoming. So before you type anything, ask yourself one honest question: am I about to respond to her, or am I about to respond to the feeling she triggered? Because if you can master that moment, you do not just win the conversation, you win yourself. The pause is what lets you show her the man, not the wound. Stoicism Breath has always come back to one simple principle: control the internal, not the external. And pausing is the most practical version of that principle you will ever use in your real life. Because you cannot control why she texted, you cannot control when she texted, you cannot control what she wants today or what she will want tomorrow, but you can control how you meet the moment, and that is where your power begins. Now picture this: she texts hey, that one word hits your screen, and your body reacts before your brain can even catch up. Your instinct screams, answer now. Do not lose the chance, do not let her disappear again. And most men obey that instinct like it is a fire alarm. But you are not most men. Instead of grabbing your phone, you place it face down, you take one slow breath, you come back to what you are doing: your work, your gym session, your routine. Not to punish her, not to manipulate her, not to play a game, but to stabilize yourself, because the real battle is not between you and her, the real battle is between you and your own nervous system. And here is the part people underestimate: 30 minutes can change a man. 30 minutes. Let your breathing slow down. 30 minutes. Let your thoughts settle. 30 minutes. Let your emotions land. So you are not typing from a chemical spike, you are typing from clarity. Then, and only then, the man responds, not the impulse. And yes, women can feel that difference through a single line of text. They feel it in timing, they feel it in tone, they feel it in energy. The message might be short, but the presence behind it is loud. That is why the pause is power, not because it makes her chase, but because it makes you sovereign. It proves you are not controlled by attention, uncertainty, or desire. It is the first act of strength, the first signal of boundaries, the first proof that you own yourself. And if you master the pause, everything that comes after gets easier, because before you craft any response, there is one place you must look that most men avoid: your inner state. Here is the brutal truth: you do not respond to her message, you respond to your emotional condition at the moment you read it. If your inner world is shaky, your reply will be shaky. If you are longing, your words will leak longing. If you are afraid, your tone will expose it instantly. You might think you are hiding it, you might think you are being casual, but your nervous system always tells the truth, and women may not notice every word you say, but they always feel the emotional energy behind it. This is where many men accidentally hand over their power. They do not check themselves, they just type. And when they type from need, they recreate the same dynamic they promised themselves they would never repeat. So let us stop that here. Let me ask you directly: are you responding from need or from clarity? Because when she reaches out after silence, your mind will automatically create a story, a fantasy, that everything is suddenly fixed, forgiven, and restored. Your brain loves closure, it hates open loops, so it fills in the gaps with hope. But if you are not grounded, that story becomes the lens you use to interpret her message, And that is how a man falls back into the same pattern, the same imbalance, the same cycle. So before a single word leaves your fingertips, ask yourself 3 internal questions and answer them honestly. First, am I hoping this message saves me from feeling lonely? If the answer is yes, pause longer. That is not clarity, that is emotional hunger wearing a mask. And when you respond from loneliness, you almost always overgive. Then she withdraws, and the imbalance repeats. A Stoic man does not let emptiness decide his next move. Second, am I assuming her message means everything has changed? Because one simple hey does not erase weeks of silence, it does not erase patterns, it does not erase history. Your mind wants to believe the gaps mean what you wish is true, but assumption is the enemy of strength. A grounded man evaluates reality, not fantasy. Strip away the story and see the message for what it is: information, not transformation. Third, if a random acquaintance sent this exact text, would I feel this excited? If the answer is no, then your reaction is not about the message, it is about attachment, craving, unfinished emotion. And that is not a place to respond from, that is a place to breathe through before you act. This is the Stoicism Breath way. You do not deny emotion, you do not pretend you feel nothing, you simply refuse to let emotion drive the car. You pause, you breathe, you return to center. And then you choose. Because the pause does not just change the conversation, the pause changes you. Control the internal, not the external. That is the core of Stoicism Breath, and it is the only mindset that keeps you strong when she reaches out again, because you cannot control why she messaged, you cannot control what she is thinking, you cannot control whether she stays or disappears another time. But you can control your internal state, and your internal state determines everything that follows: your tone, your timing, your energy, your boundaries, and the direction you choose. Here is the difference that changes everything. A man who leads his emotions leads the interaction. A man who is led by his emotions loses the interaction before it even begins. And let me be clear, this is not about suppressing what you feel, it is about separating emotion from action. You can feel the rush in your chest and still choose a steady response. You can feel hope and still stay grounded. You can feel curious and still keep your standards. Because when your reply comes from self-possession instead of self-doubt, she feels the difference instantly. You do not sound eager, you do not sound nervous, you do not sound like you have been waiting for this moment, like your life paused until her name popped back up. You sound present, you sound clear, you sound like a man with a full life and a steady center, and that energy alone resets the entire dynamic. If you do this right, by the time you reply, you are not reacting to her anymore, you are responding from your center. And that is where masculine influence begins, not in control, not in pressure, not in clever words, but in calm direction. Now this is where most men make the fatal mistake. When a woman reaches out after silence, they assume her message is a reunion. They treat a simple hey like it is an emotional homecoming, like it is a promise, like it is a fresh start. They start filling in the gaps with fantasy, and they hand her the power before she has earned anything. But a Stoic man thinks differently. He does not project meaning onto her words, he reads intent, because the truth is simple. When she comes back, she is not offering commitment, she is offering information, and your power is in understanding what that information reveals. Every return carries the imprint of the dynamic she left with. If she was inconsistent before, that inconsistency usually follows her back. If she disappeared because of fear, that fear can still be there. If she only reached out when she needed attention, that pattern does not magically disappear just because she texted. A message does not reset the past, it reflects it. And this is why so many men fall back into the same cycle. They rush to rebuild closeness without realizing they are rushing straight back into the same emotional architecture that collapsed the connection the first time. So the goal is not to punish her, the goal is not to chase her, the goal is to read the reality in front of you and choose from strength. Because the difference between men who repeat the cycle and men who break it is this one skill, the ability to read what her return actually means. Most of the time women come back for one of three reasons, and each one has a different emotional temperature. The first is validation. She wants to see if the door is still open, if you are still available, if she can still feel desirable in your eyes. The signs are usually obvious. The message is vague, casual, low effort, a simple hey, a meme, a random comment that does not even acknowledge the silence. She is not coming back to rebuild, she is coming back to reassure herself. The second reason is instinct, not games, not manipulation, but emotional overflow. Some women step back not because they lost interest, but because they were overwhelmed by how much interest they actually felt. So when they reach out again, they watch you closely, they watch your timing, they watch your tone, they watch your emotional balance. They are not looking for perfection, they are looking for a man who does not collapse the moment she reappears. And this is where your health matters, your nervous system health, your emotional fitness, your ability to stay steady under pressure. Because the stronger your center is, the clearer everything becomes. You stop guessing, you stop fantasizing, you stop chasing, you start reading, you start choosing. So as you listen to this, I want you to ask yourself one question. If she texted you today, would your response come from hunger or from wholeness? Would it come from fear or from presence? Because that answer will decide whether you repeat the past or finally break the pattern.